Responses engine 5, engine 3, engine 1, ladder 3, ladder 2, rescue 1. We've got full showing. Division 1, you're on location, box 23, reporting smoke show on 727.
JobTlks podcast members do not represent the cities and towns they work for in their views and opinions. They are views and opinions that belong to us only. We are not here trying to be the experts or tell people how to do their job. Our goal with this show is simply to facilitate knowledge sharing. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 8 of JobTlks podcast. If you are new to the show, please go back, take a look at episodes 1 through 7. Maybe you'll find some good content in there. Please do us a favor, subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. Set those alerts so when we drop new episodes every Saturday at noon, you get alerted. Then find us on social media at JobTlks, JobTlks, on both Instagram and Facebook. We also have a website, www.jobtalks.com. We have some information, resources, and hopefully soon some merch coming up on there. Biggest thing you can do for us is share this content. And if there's something that you would like to talk about, change, or have a question, whatever it is, reach out to us, and we'd be happy to talk about it.
We would indeed.
I concur.
Doctor?
I should have concurred.
Barry's going to take us through.
All right. So, hey, guys. Today we're going to talk a little bit about something that very crucial, something that we don't maybe necessarily talk about as much as we should, but really is reflected in everything that we do, which is water supply. Right. So there's a lot to water supply. There's a lot of different philosophies. So much of it is affected by your operational reality, and there's no way that we're going to be able to get into all of it. But I want to at least touch on it and at least begin to facilitate the conversation about water supply, some of the things that people are talking about, and kind of the predominant or prevailing approaches to water supply in the big city versus rural, and kind of some of the conversations that are reflected. So I have a little video here that reflects an operational reality that is entirely different from any of our own. This is from the I don't know if it's Rincon or Rincon, but they do a hell of a long lay.
Does that say 6,000 feet?
Oh boy, does it. So they use something called turbo drafts, which is pretty cool. If you want to know more about turbo drafts, look it up. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, so this is the Rincon Fire Department doing a 6,000 foot lay. I'll probably, so you can see for our listening audience, you essentially have just a truck with 6,000 feet of what I believe is 4-inch, and they're laying in from a draft site. So I believe they had, obviously, in some of these rural communities, you have very limited water supply. Most of it is probably static, and they don't have a pre-existing hydrant district. So you can see these guys pulling up. Off into the left-hand corner, you can see your pumper, which is actually pumping from the static water draft site, and these guys lay into the fire, which is pretty impressive. So you'll see.
Is this training or is this
no?
live?
This is real.
Wow.
Yeah, I would hope that you wouldn't pull 6,000 feet of 4-inch in training. I mean, I guess you should train as you fight, but that's excessive.
Yeah. That's a lot. It's 6 times more than I've ever seen come off a truck in my life.
That was my first night at the volunteer fire department. Also my last, because I had to reload 6,000 feet.
Turns out being a firefighter
60
sucks.
Yeah.
64.
That's over a mile. It's crazy.
It is over a mile. Good math.
Thanks, bud.
But we won't go the whole way through, but you can start. I just want to show you guys like how fast this guy ends up going and how much 4-inch this is. It's excessive. Like right here, I'm like, okay, that's a lot.
Yeah, I think that was 300 right there.
Yeah. But wait until you see these couplings start flying.
This guy is moving.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know.
Look at the dust popping off of him.
Yeah. You know, I'm not, like I said, you know, none of us are experts, but I'm not sure driving, you know, maybe they've done it before. You know, I'm not super familiar with excessively long lays. but whether that could potentially damage a coupling ripping out that fast and hitting the ground, I don't know.
I mean, I'm guessing.
I mean, it looks like they've done it before. So.
It's not like you're putting a lot of strain on it.
No.
You know, I don't know, maybe.
But as you can see,
Jesus.
it's like the never-ending journey.
What I don't see here is, so you tell it's called turbo drafting?
Yeah, so
so
so they
throw a
don't have to
video
so the turbo draft, I don't know enough about it really to speak intelligently about it, but it is, from my understanding, an alternative to relay pumping.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. I don't see a single like.
But maybe they do. Like the only thing in this video is it shows them obviously doing the 6,000 foot lay. My understanding of turbo drafting is it like amplifies your water source, but like at some like you have 6,000 feet of friction loss at some point. You're gonna.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So this video ends up going on for another 3 or 4 minutes, but you can kind of just see
3 or 4 minutes of just hose.
Flying out.
Go all the way to the end. What's funny about this video is like the way that the truck looks. It just looks like we're looking at one small section of a bed that's laying this hose out, when in reality it just makes it look thinner, and this is a full-size bed of a fire truck that is just chock full.
They nailed the distance on that.
Yeah.
Look at that coupling right at the pump.
Like a glove.
Like a glove.
But so while a dramatic example,
That is bananas.
it really highlights like how different people's approach to water supply is. In a lot of ways, I feel that in the city and in Stoughton, like just like the general Metro Boston, like we don't really have to do considerations of like these excessively long lays, or relay pumping isn't something that we think about every day. But water supply is something you should be thinking about every day, and it should begin before the call. So I'm going to pull up my little bullet points here. All right, so I think we all can agree that rapidly the single most indispensable resource on the fireground is water. At the end of the day, you're not going to be able to facilitate a positive outcome without water. That's like, you can't argue the fact, right? So you should begin thinking about establishing a water supply well before the call, right? So I understand that, like, we talked about a previous episode, like water supply or overhaul, they're not like the sexy, like hot point topics,
right?
But like they're absolutely critical to success on the fireground. So like, to me, like water supply, like immediately correlates to preserving life, preserving property, and making sure not only for our customers, right, but for our fellow members on the fireground. Like if they don't have water, this is going to be turned into a really bad situation really quick, aside from just conserving life and property, right?
Right.
So like we said, how departments approach their water supply is greatly dependent on their operational reality, right? So whether departments choose to, there's a whole myriad of factors, right? Whether it's staffing, their civil infrastructure, do they have a complete hydrant district, do they have half a hydrant district, do they have good water pressure in said hydrant district, are they just pumping off of static water sources, do they have man-made water sources that they developed? There's so many different aspects that affect water supply, even down to like how we design our apparatus, like that affects our water supply strategy. We'll dive into it, but things as simple as like, hey, like, do your guys' pumps carry 500 gallons, 750, 1,000? We'll talk a little bit more about some departments that are, maybe like this Rincon Fire Department, they have engine tankers where they're showing up, and that's their operational reality, where they have engines that have 2,500, maybe 3,000 gallons of water, so it buys them enough time to bridge that gap. So stuff that we don't necessarily think about even every day. And even other things like climate, right? It's not something you think about with water supply, but it's a huge deal in the Northeast, right?
Yeah.
As far as like how we're going to approach, do we have a viable water source? Do you have a frozen hydrant? Do you have there's so many different issues that affect it.
Can you even access your hydrant?
Right.
Is it
access your hydrant?
Snow on it?
Right, and that's when you go to the water supply starts before the incident. I know for us, every we're approaching every winter, we go in and we open the hydrants in the district, and we make sure that there's no water sitting in them, so that the barrels don't freeze closed.
Right.
Through the winter. So water supply is an ongoing thing.
Yeah, and like I said, like, you should be having conversations about water supply well before an incident, and a lot of that comes down to like area familiarization, doing your hydrant testing regularly, or if you guys do it annually, quarterly, monthly, if you do a different part of your district, and understanding, or at least having like a good idea of like where your out of service hydrants are, or where areas where maybe you have smaller water mains or you have lower pressure. And that a lot of stuff comes through time of like learning your district. Right. But you should be, that's where like these like neighborhood walks or like companies just like even just driving around, like understanding where your hydrants are. And we'll talk a little bit about later on. But one of the big principles that I had wanted to discuss when I think of water supply is water supply to me it's like a tactical decision that's made at the company level at an incident, but it has strategic implications for the whole fire. So I don't think, like I'm not even close to being a chief officer, but chief officers to me, like they shouldn't be concerned or even be delegating like, hey, like you guys should be getting a water supply. That's at the tactical company level to make the decision as you guys are being dispatched to the call. First thing you get the dispatch to, let's just say like a working fire. Like the first thing you should be thinking about is like, oh, racking my head, like where in my district is this? And like based on that, you might be like, okay, there's good water in that area. There's bad water in that area. Like where, whether you use like like a CAD, like a heads-up display, yep, like iPad or Toughbook, what have you. If you have an index of all your hydrants, and you're fortunate enough to have that where you can look up like on the screen, like, hey, we have a blue hydrant on the corner, depending on what, if your department uses colors or what have you to signify how good of a hydrant that is. But you should be thinking about that before, and you should be not only like thinking at the tactical level of your company, but also like, hey, if engine 3 or engine 1 is coming from this direction, odds are, the other engine company is going to be coming from this way. This is where the ladder company is going to be coming from. You want to give them preference to the front of the building. Mm-hmm. So all these tactical considerations should be coming in early, and that has huge strategic implications, right? It becomes a strategic problem if you fail at the tactical objective of getting water.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that's something that I think
not even like you said, not even getting the water itself, but how you get the water. If you depending on your SOGs and what your practical applications are, some departments operate where the first dew pump goes directly to the building and the second dew pump lays forward to them. Some departments, you get your own water supply, first and second dew. And if you can establish a water supply, but say you're that first dew engine and that's your SOG, and you take that 4-inch all the way across the road, and now your ladder trucks.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you charge that before your truck is in or whatever, which, you'd have to be pretty quick to be charging it before your truck gets there, at least in a city like ours. But, you can not only affect the firefight from a water supply standpoint and getting lines in place, but from a positioning of other apparatus like a truck to getting ladders and stuff in place. Yeah. So there's a lot of implications to it for sure.
Huge implications.
Yeah. I actually recently had just what turned out to be a small fire. Could have been a bigger one. And I was coming from the 2nd district, so we were second due, so I knew that we were going to be laying in. I was actually surprised that the engine came the way that they did instead of coming up a main road and tagging a hydrant on the main road and bringing it in. But I had come from the other side, and the reason I did that was because, well, like I said, I thought they would be coming from the other side and they'd hit one street and then we would kind of hit the other. And I knew the area, because it just turns out that every time we have a fire, it's like in the neighborhood of the fire station. Either one, it's crazy. I don't know what's going on lately, but it's like they've just been so close. But either way, they were up a little bit more on a hill where it's been known to have a little bit less pressure, or they're at like the bottom of the hill maybe,
right?
But we were like all the way down the street where it was definitely flat, and I knew there was going to be hydrants on that side. So like the strategy that I had going into it was, okay, well, let's see if we can get on 2 separate parts of
two separate mains,
maybe 2 separate mains, because I'm not sure if they were or not, but they have 2 pretty big. One of them was a main street, one was kind of like a big street on a side road, but it's still like a big cut through. So I'm like, that's probably got a big main too.
And that makes a big difference. Like,
because we've had issues in that neighborhood.
Oh, and see, that's like, again, like before the water supply is established, is knowing that stuff. So, my current assignment, we don't do hydrant testing or any of that stuff. We do shoveling. But went out with the engine that's in my house yesterday just to kind of do a little bit and see where they were doing it, because I've never had to actually I've drained the hydrants and shoveled the hydrants, but I hadn't actually tested water flow.
Mm-hmm.
So we went out. I went out with them and we hit basically the beginning of a line, and we were getting 2,100 gallons a minute, and the next hydrant was 1,900, and the hydrants further down were down to 1,300 and 1,250 gallons a minute. I mean, you're still getting, those are still great hydrants, but you could see like just going down how it affects it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what, like you said, the planning begins well before the fire, knowing your district and knowing your SOGs, and like doing a little bit more research on this one, because there's so much to water supply. You could end up talking about water supply for like 6 hours and really not even broach, just because it's so different. Every department's approach to water supply is different, so touching on all of it is nearly impossible. But realizing like this is actually like a pretty controversial. Like,
you were saying
topic.
Doing some research, you found some.
Like different people's varying opinions on like, should you secure your own water source? Should the first due lay in and the second due will tag the hydrant, and then the second due will then assist them? But there's actually like a lot of apparently like it can be pretty contentious of like people like, oh, you're putting a water supply above life safety, which is our primary priority. And I don't think I think one of the things about JobTlks that I think we all think is important is the conversation in the fire service, like writ large. It's okay to like be passionate about. There's clearly things that I'm passionate about, but it should never devolve into like just like shoot like shots fired at people over like a topic that you're clearly both passionate enough to at least have an opinion on. And everyone's operational reality is different. So like that's why I think it's important to have SOGs versus SOPs. Right.
Yeah.
So like
procedures versus guidelines.
Yeah, because an SOP, like you really can't deviate from it. Like this is the policy, regardless of organization, if it's police, fire, EMS, whatever.
Right.
But we operate in a very dynamic field where like, okay, like if the SOG is for the second due to, we lay in and the second due grabs the height, you know what I mean? But like that might not, based on your operational reality or based on the situation in front of you, it might be more tactically advantageous to just grab your own water supply, right?
Right.
Or, if there's reports of occupants trapped and you make the decision, hey, we're going to run off a tank water, you can run off a tank water. But I didn't realize that it was that much of a controversial issue.
My old department were redoing or initiating some new SOGs, and I remember the kind of the debate, not necessarily to water supply, but just to the SOG SOP issue is a lot of the officers wanted them to be SOGs where the chief wanted them to be SOPs at the time. And they argued it because it was like, well, listen, if you put this as an SOP and I don't do this now, I don't have any input into how stuff happens because we work in a dynamic environment. You should have some ability to deviate, kind of like for medics and medical providers, ability to deviate within the protocols as long as you know what you're doing. And eventually I think if I remember, they ended up being called SOGs, and it seems like trivial, but it does make a difference,
Yeah, and I think like terms like SOGs or like best practices, like we can agree that like based on our department or your department or whoever's department, like this is a commonly identified best practice. But understanding like based on the situation, it might not be the best practice for that particular scenario.
Yeah.
Right. So something, but like like the idea of like running on tank water versus securing a water source.
Right.
Like I would much rather secure a water source because it gives me the peace of mind.
Yeah.
Right. But if that's this, if you're right around the corner from a call, or like you just happen upon something like, and you have, like a limited resource or limited staffing to really make that happen. And like you have occupant trap, like you're going to run on tank water. And at that point, in my opinion, it becomes more of a life safety thing. Like we have 500 gallons to at least affect a rescue. Right.
I'm happy you said that, because I was going to ask you like what you thought about that, both of you guys. And so like in our job in the city, we have SOG. We secure I think our SOG actually says the second due secures it, but in practice we get our own water supply. We've said this before, like I've never had to pump a fire, so like my opinions from this just come from like different reading and stuff, and not necessarily practical application. But I've always been a fan of what some people call like a fast attack and second to establishing your water. In my old department, that's how we did it. But I don't remember if it's like Firehouse or Fire Engineering had a pretty good article about it too. And basically their thought, or the article's thought, was that you're not flowing a nozzle continuously when you're firefighting. You're opening, shutting down, moving, opening, shutting down, moving, unless you're going to like, defensive operations kind of thing. And it had, and I don't remember the numbers. I'd like to find the article. Maybe I can link it to the website. But it basically had the numbers on like average actual gallonage used in initial like fire suppression. Yeah. And like even on a 500-gallon tank, if you're using 1 3/4 inch, which we've also had the discussion because a lot of people have differing opinions on that. I'm a 1 3/4 inch guy for residential interior firefighting, and the amount of water used is not negligible, but not as much as you might think. And they had kind of the numbers that even conservatively 30 seconds to a minute, even if you're not just to lay the line in, even if you're not actually being the one to charge your own line and stuff like that. And that's where I come into the like, my thought is life safety. But if I were operating in a department where my second due pump was 5, or as we said, another fire department 10 or 12 minutes away, you have to consider life safety of the residents, but also life safety of your people. So in that scenario, I would be much more inclined to say, establish your own water supply.
Yeah.
And
it depends, like, again, it comes down to, there's so many variables. Like, it comes down to, like, are you running with 3? What is your staffing? Are you running with 3 or are you running with 4? Because that's a completely different ballgame, because then you can secure your own water source all day. Like, I agree. Like, I really I like driving and I enjoy driving. I'm in a new district now, so some of my buddies might laugh because I'm still learning the district. But like, to me, like, I don't necessarily in principle have a problem. Like, I think at the end of the day, like, everyone would rather secure their own water supply. I'm happy to run off tank water until that can be supplied. I would rather at least lay in, right, and be fed, and then just like hopefully you can kind of bridge that gap. But it's all dependent on staffing and like what you're rolling up to. Like you said, if you have like a residential room and content structure fire where you have that like, okay, like in this case, like you're going to be pulling off 1 3/4 inch. Other companies might be right behind you, so then you have some other considerations of how much water you really have to give. But if it's room and contents, then like you have a little bit of leeway there, versus like if you're pulling up to a commercial occupancy where you're going to be pulling big lines off the bat, or how well involved is the fire. Like if you're going to be if you're going to be utilizing the deck gun right off the bat to either facilitate like, hey, like a quick knockdown similar to they did recently, you're going to be out of water in seconds, and then you're waiting for your water supply. Right. So it's all kind of what you're pulling into, but
and that's what I like, because like I kind of have the opinion based on the staffing, on the type of structure, but having, again, going back to SOGs, is those guidelines where it's dynamic. So if I had to make that decision, I'd be able to. I mean, I think like in our job, again, like you're pretty much expected to get your own water supply, but like having the ability to think about if people are trapped, what I say, by the wayside. What do you guys do in Stoughton, John? What's your like general SOG in practice?
So, first due straight to the fire. But
do you guys follow that? Like, because for us, it's like we have like first due to the fire, and like second due will secure water source. But it seems
that's exactly what we do. But the thing is we've had a few where it's like the hydrant's right across the street. Yeah. So the pump operator has time to secure his own water source. So be able to secure your own water if you can, or at least be looking around and know where it's got to go. Say there's some sort of delay or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like if you pulled up like within 100 feet of a hydrant, I would just pull in as if I was a pump operator and just establish my own after that while guys were getting set up.
Yeah. I mean, that's...
Again, unless you need that deck gun or whatever.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. The last fire that I went to that we actually like really needed a water supply. It was like kind of down and around the corner, and it was, I don't know. It wasn't. I mean, it was over 100 feet. It was definitely over 100 feet. that would have sucked to have to hand jack that line.
Yeah.
Especially because I had, one line already going and one line waiting. I'm waiting to be told to send them water, and I ended up waiting there for a minute. They ended up just going in and backing them up on the other line, and so I was just kind of in limbo.
Right.
But while all that happened, was able to hook up to, a water supply. But it was like, it just kind of, it always just depends.
Do you guys run front suction?
Yeah. So that's like something that I think that I always thought that front suction would just be like the way to go, right? And everybody's like, no, man, you lose a lot of water when you do that, because it goes up and around the tire and then over and takes a 90 and does another 90 and all this stuff. And like, yeah, it's all friction loss. And I'm just like, why do we have front suction then? Like, why do we even put it on the trucks?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point?
Yeah, I'm a fan. You do have more friction loss, just the amount of bends in the pipe. But
yeah,
I mean, I guess again, this is not a subject that I could claim at all to be masterful in. So I don't know how much you really lose if you're on a 2,100 gallon per minute, 90 psi hydrant.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So I don't think we have. I mean, I don't honestly. I think we have like some 6 and some 8 and some 12-inch mains in Stoughton. I don't think we have any kind of. We don't have 36-inch mains.
Do you guys color code your hydrants for water flow?
No.
So that's one of the things that we do. So we have a variety of colors, and each one means different things.
So
like
the blue one's the big one.
Blue one's 1,600 gallons per minute, and then I think it's all the way down to 500 to 600 on a red hydrant. Is that what something close to that? And it's like, it's funny because we're spoiled, right?
Yeah,
so
we generally have really good pressure.
Yeah.
We won't. I've never seen somebody tag a red hydrant.
No,
they'll just, because inevitably there's another better hydrant, close enough.
Right.
like 50 feet away.
Yeah.
I think so. That brings up a good point. And like this hydrant has like shit pressure. Like, so I'm not necessarily again, I'm not an expert. I enjoy like driving in the engineer position. I enjoy hydraulics, but like especially if you're close and like you're talking about utilizing front suction, like I'm not a hydraulics expert, right? But like, especially if you have like a good hydrant that's giving you like 1,750, 2,000, 1,500 gallons per minute.
Even if it's 1,000.
Even if it's 1,000, right? Like if you're pulling, multiple hand lines, you have more, like your concern is volume. Like the job, like I'm not gonna say I don't care about pressure off the hydrant because it's beneficial. Obviously the truck doesn't have to work as hard, but what I'm looking for is consistent volume. Like I have a giant pump that can give me the pressure I want.
Right.
But like if you have a hydrant that's giving you 1,500 gallons per minute and you have a pump that's rated for 1,250, it doesn't matter.
No.
Right? Like you have more volume than your pump can physically pump.
Right.
But the only other thing I was gonna go back to is like, as far as like the peace of mind of securing your own water supply is like, okay, like if you delegate that task to your second due and your second due encounters a problem, and now that second due engine company is transitioning that task to like, hey, now they have to get in communication with the third due engine company to try and find water from a different location. So, but I mean, this is a game of like what ifs. So like you could do like, oh, well, what if, like all the hydrants on the street route, right? But like you have to plan. I think it's important. Like we increase our survivability through readiness, and like at some, like you have to be as ready as possible, like within reason, but you do have to accept like a calculated amount.
Well, I think that's why we call it best practices and not the only practice, right? Like say 90% of the time it's going to work. There's a 10% chance, but this is for all the potential scenarios and the percentage of time that it's going to fail. This is kind of the best practice, and people go off that. I think maybe just my experience with that second to establishing the water supply makes me, I don't know if it's more comfortable with it, but that's how my old job did it. So we ran a pump out of a south station, and then we ran a quint or just a pump out of the north station, and it was vice versa. Whoever got there first went straight to fire attack, and then the second two laid in, and I never encountered a problem that way. So it's not. It's like that recognition of prime decision making. I've never encountered a problem that way, so in my head, I don't really have like a. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel comfortable with it.
And
I guess
you can. It's like you can recognize. Hopefully, you can. I mean, you can also lose. I mean, if you're operating on tank water, you're not going to lose your source, but you'll have a little time to at least be on the radio with them, like, hey,
Right.
we don't have an established water supply yet. You guys need to either hold what you got or start making your way out because
Right.
you're not going to have enough. But the question I want to ask, how much like tank size in Wayland? Because
You're gonna. So it's been a while. Oh man, I wish I could phone a friend. I want to say we ran 750 gallon
I was
tanks.
gonna say 750s are kind of like the.
I believe
is that what
we
you
ran.
guys have, a
Yeah, we have
750?
750s.
So we run 500.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
that makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
And
Honestly.
So I was talking to Brian, and they run all 1,000. So that really changes the game, right? So like,
Yeah.
for him, he said, again, we always default back to like your operational reality, but he said, you're getting 2 or 3 guys on an engine, and like worst case scenario, he is establishing the water supply.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
worst
Right.
case scenario.
Yeah.
But he was saying, with 1,000 gallons per minute, he's the majority of their town or district is residential. He's like, I don't really have a lot of concern about the time when we have 1,000 gallons and maybe 2 inch and 3/4 hand lines in operation. We have a little bit of a buffer.
Right. I want to find that article and post it, because I want to say it was like sub 200 gallons on
So
like
Quint-
some residential structures that
Yeah.
as far as like how much gallonage
Yeah.
was used like in initial fire attack. And
It would make a difference with a Quint, because I think Quints carry 250 gallons.
no. The Quint in Wayland, maybe that was a 500.
Oh, really?
Quints are big trucks.
Yeah, they're huge.
Oh.
Yeah,
They're huge.
they're huge. So
The difference is if I remember right, the Quint didn't have like a lot of the extra hose that the pumps had. They had all the 4-inch. They had a couple Matty Dales, like the 3 standard Matty Dales, and then a little bit of like 2-inch off the back. But it wasn't the same. But I mean, you have,
Yeah.
it's not.
I bet you most of them are 750 or 1,000 gallon
Yeah.
tanks. I mean, I don't
Really?
really
I've
know,
never
but
I've never.
but they're big trucks.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know anyone with
Yeah.
So.
And then depends on what you do in your cabinetry and
Yeah, everything's
all that stuff.
Yeah,
customizable.
depends how you build the truck out.
Yeah, so if anyone has experience with Quints, with likes, dislikes, capacity, let us know.
Yeah.
I don't have any experience with them, so
they're very long trucks from my.
Because most of them still have like 80-foot sticks, right?
Yeah, so the Quint that was there when I got to that job was a 75-foot stick, and then they went to 105-foot.
Oh wow!
And that's, I think I may have mentioned it before, but it you used to be able to take it out alone and take it to a scene or whatever.
Yeah.
And it went to like it has to be a
two-man minimum.
two-man
Yeah,
operation.
makes sense.
But I and again, like I also think it depends on what you're doing. So you're talking about taking a line inside, and you were talking about having guys that went in, and then you're waiting for them to call water. If you have a crew that's dry stretching a line, which I guess is another very debatable topic. I'm a fan of dry stretching a line when the conditions are appropriate. You have a crew that's dry stretching a line, you as the pump operator can't walk away to establish that water supply either,
Nope.
even if it is a front suction, because if those guys are saying, okay, now I need water,
Yeah.
they need water.
They need
Yeah.
water.
Well, that was it. And I remember walking up and down the lawn, I'm helping flake everything out, getting everything moving. And I just remember being like, all right, like, what else can I do? And I'm like, should I grab, like, a ladder and go ladder this thing while I'm sitting here? Like, there's, like, literally nothing else I can do right now. And we weren't flowing a lot of water, so it was like, no, I got to wait here. This is going to call for water any second. And then
Never did.
Yeah, it was just like, oh. So
But you, unless they tell you that,
yeah,
you have to
You don't know.
assume that
Yeah.
they're getting into position, or
Yeah.
maybe they were dry stretching to that second floor and encountered a door that they're
Yeah.
now trying to work through, and it's taking a little. Like, you have no idea
Yeah.
what's going on in the building.
I think basically what ended up happening is they went in there and they just backed up those guys and they all worked it together, and that line was just there as a
Basically a
backup,
backup.
and I don't think that was the intention in the beginning, but that's exactly how it wound up. So
Yeah.
Do you guys like to side dress your hydrants?
yeah, we fully dress it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we fully dress it.
We had that conversation.
Yeah, and we've had it. Actually,
you do both,
what's funny is
all three.
yeah. So
Really?
what's funny is we just had this conversation at work because it was one of our senior guys and 2 other guys. No, it was one of our senior guys, and then maybe 2 police officers. I couldn't remember. But the front steam plate, whatever,
the steamer,
right, the steamer, right, is frozen on there. Took 3 guys, and they bent the hydrant wrench.
Holy shit!
They just bent it. They couldn't move it. So they ended up just
dressing the sides.
The sides were already dressed, but then he's looking to move on and try to get that done too. The police went over and tried to help him. No go. The thing was frozen on solid. So we always just have we have it in our minds. Okay, we're going to dress this thing, and we're going to get the sides dressed up. Going to have everything ready to go. If you need to steal water for something else or whatever you got to do, we have this available, ready to get hooked up, and that's that.
You squeeze a little bit more volume out of it too, but that's what I like is, you talked about preparing, expecting the unexpected, right? If you have encounter problems with the steamer connection, but just squeezing a little bit more volume out, and you'd be surprised. I think you were still at Engine 3 when we had the conversation about how much water you can get off of that 2.5-inch side discharge.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember. So when I first got there, it was always just the steamer, and we had the conversation because every time we made a hydrant, I put the extra gate on, and we had the conversation, and I was like, well, my senior men taught me to do this for a variety of reasons. Squeeze an extra water out. Something happens with the front. It doesn't take a lot of time, and then a non-tactical objective is that you can drain the hydrant through that a little bit easier than so when you go to like make up your hose and stuff, instead of pulling that steamer off and soaking yourself, you can just open that little gate and let it flood. But
and you'd be surprised, so planning for worst case scenarios, right? Like say whatever for like you said, the steamer's not working. We did I'm not sure if you were there with us. I had this conversation with our division chief at the time about conceptually I couldn't understand it at first, but you can actually, if you put like a 4-inch reducer onto the 2.5, you can get like a shit ton of water.
Yeah, that's how one of ours is dressed. Yeah,
and like for a while, I wasn't understanding it because I was like, okay, like you're limited. Like I understand, like you're limited by the efficient carrying capacity or like the size of that orifice. Like to get, like you're eventually limited by the capacity of volume, but it turns out that wasn't necessarily the case. And we tried it. Like we flowed. I did the reducer, and then from the side connection into a 4-inch, and we were flowing 2.5 and 1 3/4 inch, and I still had PSI left to give. So I was very impressed. But I remember initially being like, how is this possible? It's only so big. How are we getting so much?
Think about a deck gun. Piping on the engine isn't 4-inch piping. Yeah, it's 2.5-inch piping going to there, and whatever nozzle tip you can get 1,000+ gallons a minute out of that. So there's no reason you can't get it going into a.
Yeah, and I think that was the difference between like efficient carrying capacity versus what it's actually physically
what it can actually do.
Of doing. So like I said, there's like so many variables beyond our control. We talked a little bit about like apparatus design. I would argue, if you're, other departments, feel free to chime in. Like I'd say like most urban departments, probably 500, 750, 1,000 gallons for some of the more rural communities. And I have some pictures to show you guys as well as some of those like engine tankers. But also like, do you guys use 4-inch or 5-inch?
4.
So I didn't realize I was reading a few articles, obviously in preparation. I wanted to encapsulate as much of this as possible. Apparently the nationwide like predominantly used is 5-inch, not 4-inch.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that's just like a Northeast thing. Again, if anybody else knows, like feel free to chime in.
I know the town next to my old department was 5-inch, and the rest of us were 4-inch, so we had to have an adapter.
Yeah. So again, I was talking to Brian recently, and their communities got it on a grant. So there's like 3 or 4 communities around them that all switched to 5-inch. And again, that's like a representation of their operational reality. So like I'm not a hydraulics expert, but roughly every 800 feet or so with 4-inch, you need to relay pump because just due to the friction loss. Versus talking to him the other day, he said the benefit of 5-inch, other than obviously the volume, is the drastically decreased friction loss. Right. So versus every 800 feet, if you're waiting on additional companies coming from other communities, it's roughly like 1/3 of a mile that you would need to relay.
That's huge.
Yeah, so that makes a big difference for a community that has, they don't have
Yeah.
8 or 9 engine companies.
Right.
They're like mutual aid that's 5-6 minutes away.
Still don't even have that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Or, like if you're in a community where like look at this Rincon fire or Rincon. Like, I mean, they're using turbo drafts.
I really want to understand this turbo draft thing.
Yeah,
gonna
I
have
don't know enough to speak about it, but
We're gonna have to look it up and put
yeah.
it on the.
And if anyone's familiar with turbo drafts, let us know.
yeah, that'd be awesome.
But yeah, so like the frequency of that you would need to relay pump,
Yeah.
is drastically decreased. Obviously, that you have a larger size, and you're gonna have significantly less friction loss. But I didn't even realize that 5 inches kind of the. Seems to be
I would have thought it was
majority of the country, yeah.
4. Boston still uses 3, right?
I don't know.
I have no idea. I'm pretty sure that. My buddy Dave said that his department is using 5, and they're a couple towns over from us. So
Yeah.
we don't. I don't.
Do you
think we
do you guys have
mutual aid, though.
hydrant assist valves, or do you guys
I was
just
gonna
run?
ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't
source
use them
connection.
anymore.
So we have a hydrant assist valve that we are going to use if the fire is more than 100 feet away. It's more or less how it's put to us. Other than that, we're just using a regular gate.
Yeah, we just have a regular Storts connection.
Yeah.
On the.
That's what I meant. Yeah,
at
just
the end of our
just regular
4 inch.
Storts. And
Have you ever had to relay pump?
never had to relay pump, but I have had to pump hydrants.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I've never had to.
I've trained relay pumping.
Yeah,
but
no.
I've never
Same.
had to
I've
do it.
never trained it, but I've never had to do it in actuality. And I remember Andy telling me a couple of times he'd done it. And
You mean
like obviously,
Schmandy?
Yeah, Schmandy. And obviously the big consideration is make sure you're in RPM versus PSI,
Yeah.
so you're not having this like oscillating back and forth.
Right.
But yeah. So
Yeah, I'd like to do some relay and do some drafting because we don't train that because we don't really need to
Right.
in a sense. You know,
I
we
think
do
you-
have a district that's not hydrant.
You guys have a district that's not hydrant?
Yeah, yeah. It's not massive, and it's in between. It's part of Easton.
Okay.
It's part of there. Like the,
I feel like
the
we've
town
talked about
line.
this now
Yeah,
that
we
you're
have.
saying it, yeah.
And so we have a lot of response coming when we get a fire down that way, but I don't know. We just don't. We don't have it.
It's funny because I always think like Stoughton, you guys are technically like a suburban department, but you're so surrounded by like Brockton is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like to me, it just seems like it's a.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you wouldn't have a hydrant distance seems.
I'm sure that you guys
District.
in Brockton have. I don't know. Like I was saying before, I think Brockton has 36-inch mains on their main roads.
I think Cambridge has
We got some
bigger
big
than that. I
ones.
think we
Yeah.
have, do they have up to 60?
I don't.
Yeah.
know.
So water
We got
is
big water though.
Yeah, big
Yeah.
water. That's
Yeah,
good.
big water because they do. It's crazy when they do like they
Always
doing
assaulted
North
me.
Point's like a huge development, a lot of high rises going in, and like when we were at Engine 3, all the like water shunting and all that stuff for that was done, a half a mile or a mile away.
Right.
So they were doing a lot of work on the mains and different stuff. But does Engine 3 have a hydrant assist valve for the airport? Do they have
No.
one in that back corner?
No.
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 I thought for some reason they had a hydrant assist valve
No,
for
we have that
potential.
specialized thing for foam.
I know. I thought they had one
for,
for
like,
relay
large
pumping.
volume.
That long. Remember that long stretch for mutual aid to Logan.
I could. It's
Right.
entirely possible that I'm incorrect.
Yeah.
Derek Pizarro, let us know.
Yeah. I mean
Um,
Schmerich,
Yeah.
Zaparo.
Terrence Laparo. Terrence Laparo. He's a
Terrence.
good guy. Terrence
Terrence.
Laparo. I don't know. As close as I can get. Good guy.
You're okay.
Yeah.
He made fun of you while you were gone. I just want you to know that. He
As-
sent me a snap of his lifted Silverado next to your truck, and he said engine guys versus potential squad guys.
As every good friend should. Thank you, Derek. Actually, he did. He in his defense, he did send me a thing about Chevy as well.
Yeah.
It's
It's the way to go.
You probably don't see relay pumping as much in the city, but what I could, similar to what you were saying, is like trying to get on a different main.
Yeah.
Like if you had a large scale incident, right, and you're really utilizing that main to you're maxing out its capacity. If you want to just try and get on another main and relay over, so I could see that like a large incident.
Yeah.
Because definitely not something that we experience on a regular basis. But if you had maybe a large incident where you're like, hey, this main's pretty much given everything.
I imagine like the Berkshire Street
Yeah.
fire for us at 10 Alarms. I mean,
definitely.
you definitely got to be on.
Yeah.
And I think that was actually an issue
Got to get on a few
at that
different
fire at
systems.
one point, if I remember. And they were trying to get water supplies from different.
Yeah.
different mains.
Damn,
Yeah,
near
we've had
drafting
some-
it out of the Charles.
We've had some dead end.
Could you imagine?
No, I can't.
Actually, if we did that, it'd be with the boat.
That'd be
Sorry.
cool. I was just gonna say we've had some dead end hydrants that they're dead end hydrants.
Yeah.
You get what you get out of them.
Yep.
It
Get
ain't,
what you get. Don't
Every
get upset.
the thing is, like, you're like, well, why is
it ain't much, but it's honest water.
It's honest
It's
water.
honest water. You think about it, and you're like, well, why is the flow so different between this hydrant and this hydrant? And you have to remember, like, you're on a main.
Yeah.
Every building, sink, bathtub, washing machine,
Yeah.
everything between that hydrant and that hydrant consumes some of that water and some of
Right.
that pressure. And
Right.
when you're at the end of that run,
Yeah.
I don't know if Boston's. Have you ever heard we still have some wood pipes in the city?
I have heard that they exist, but not that they're in service.
Yeah.
His pipes were made of wool.
I mean, I guarantee there's still wood underneath
100%, yeah.
underneath stuff, but I don't.
Well, so this is like a interesting. When I did a project at my house, I had to connect a sewer, so we dug up everything, and while we were there, we were gonna replace anything that needed to be replaced. Well, my neighbor's water line was running through it, and they got, they had like the as-built or the engineering. They knew where it was. They had everything marked out. So they got down and they started digging by hand, and then they found her line, which is probably only like an inch. It was old. It was an old steel line though.
Wow.
And the only reason why it was still functional is because it was literally
Caked.
it was just a hole, basically the hole in the ground that it was running.
Just running through.
But
No shit.
once they uncovered it, the whole thing just flaked apart.
Wow.
That's
Just
crazy.
flaked apart.
It's
And
basically
so
the pressure of the earth was
the,
holding
the
it.
pressure of the earth from the outside and the pressure of the water from the inside.
Wow.
And then the thing just disintegrated. Just disintegrated all the way right up to the house. And so it was like one of those things that,
Had they called dig safe,
Yeah.
never would have happened.
Yeah.
Well, technically, you didn't
No. I mean,
What's that?
disturb it, or they didn't disturb
No,
it. It
we
just happened to be
we
like,
knew it was there. It's just that when you go down and you find it, and then you uncover it by hand, and then you expose it by hand, and then you can dig around it. Well, they did that. They exposed it, and then it was just like, and it just the
Just all
whole
it
thing
needed
just
was-
disintegrated.
that's
Yeah,
crazy.
Just
just didn't have
started
it.
that chain reaction.
Yeah.
Just that's all it needed.
So you can imagine, when they talk about, like the insides of these pipes and how they corrode. And that's why you flush the hydrant, that among other things. And you just see all that. When you
Crap,
get down
yeah.
to the end, a dead end pipe, right? Everything just eventually flows that
Yep.
way. So, you get a line, right, that starts off at, even if it's a 6-inch main, what's the word for that? When it just keeps building up on the inside, it's stenose, right?
Yeah.
It just basically stenoses down to, you
Yeah.
probably got like
It's having an MI.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
These hydrants are having MIs because they're just
Right.
getting choked
Just need a
from
giant mobile
the
cat lab.
lifeblood of water.
Yeah. Yeah. And a couple other things I thought were interesting as far as like talking to a few people about drafting, and like relay pumping, right? Is that you actually want your biggest pump at your water source, which I had never thought
Your
of.
biggest pump.
Yeah.
at
So
your
like
That makes
whatever
sense.
your truck, like
The
your of the engines that you have available to
highest
you,
capacity.
you want your highest rated capacity pump actually at the water source.
Okay.
Because if you
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Okay.
for whether you're either actually directly pumping or if you're you're drafting and you're doing like a tanker shuttle,
Mhm.
because if that tanker shuttle or draft can't keep up with the needs, like we always talk about like GPMs over BTUs. Like if you were to put a small pump at your water source or at your draft site to fill the tanker shuttle, if that's not keeping up and you have like a 1500 or 1750, I don't know if that exists, like gallon per minute, I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
Pump at the fire, it does you no use because you can't just meet the volume needs of the fire.
Right,
So I thought
right.
that was interesting. He's like, you always want your highest capacity rated pump at the draft site so you can
Yeah.
fill up as many tankers or
Right.
as many like dump sites as possible.
or even if you're
Never
directly
even thought about
pumping,
it.
if you have a 1,000-gallon pump,
Yeah.
pumping a 1,250 gallon pump, that 1,250 is not going to get more
Yeah.
than the 1,000 gallons out, because then you start getting out of efficient carrying and
Yeah.
all that
Or
stuff. So.
if you have a 1250 and you're running deck guns where you're
Right.
giving more water than you know what I mean. So the last piece for that piece for the litany of variables was weather, which are all familiar with, right? affecting your water source. And, even if that's a static water source like a lake, like a lake or
Right.
hydrants, like you got a frozen hydrant. You physically can't see the hydrant because someone didn't shovel it, what have you. Some of the things we're blessed with in the northern hemispheres of the world.
Some departments don't do anything with their hydrants. They do strictly. It's all strictly the water department that takes care of them.
Yeah, I think that's us.
Is it? And
Brockton as well, I'm pretty sure.
Listen, I'm not gonna lie. After a snowstorm, I wouldn't be super upset to not have to go shovel hydrants. But going out and draining them, shoveling them, and testing them, you learn where they are.
Yeah,
and that's just one of those things that just goes into memory.
That's where walking, something as simple as just walking around your district. So that's a good point. So these pictures right here, 3 of them are from Cambridge. I'll let you guess which ones.
Is that Schmave Wones?
It is Schmave Wones.
Good dude. Good dude.
That's in Brookline. The Brookline.
The training.
Yeah. So I have a couple pictures here. So the picture for our audio-based listeners, I have 2 pictures up here of a blue hydrant. These pictures are from Cambridge. I took them. Of a blue hydrant that is the steamer connection is immediately facing a chain link fence. Right. So this is the benefit of doing a walk around your district. I actually was walking my dog and just saw this, and I was like, "Huh, that's really inconvenient." And that the city put that chain link fence in. That's city property.
Sounds about right.
Having said that, we love the city of Cambridge.
Our views and opinions are our own.
But if
small oversight.
However, if I could talk to Parks and Rec, I might have made the recommendation. Hey, fellas, maybe. But anyway, great guys. What a wonderful city to work for. Anyways, I digress. But you're not going to see these things unless you get out in your district, right? So that's where I think about secure your own water source, or at least be familiar with your district. The guys at my new district are going to laugh and make fun of me. Bliss Smadams? I don't know. Bliss Smadams.
It's getting harder every time.
Bliss Smadams might have something to say about me.
All the names sound alike when you do that. I can't even tell them apart.
Well, the problem with East Cambridge is easy to learn because it's very, by and large, a grid. Yeah. And my new district is Harvard Square. So there's all these these
horse baths.
Getting a little bit better, but it's definitely much more complicated. But anyway, so this is a hydrant that was, this is actually up in your neck of the woods. This is by Danahy.
Oh, yep.
So, if you don't know that, you look at your...
Oh, I see. That's the trail right there.
Yeah. Yep. So you might look at your tough book, your laptop, what have you, even your book printout, and you're like, oh, hell yeah, we have a blue hydrant right across the street. But then you run into this where, at the end of the day, you can easily cut a chain link fence, but that translates to time, right? Especially if you're on an engine company where all you have is bolt cutters, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's going to take you some time, especially if you need big water pretty quick. You have big water right there, but so close yet so far away, right? So these are kind of the things of hey, it's incredibly beneficial to just get out, walk your district, or even come in on the weekend sometimes. I used to come in on the weekend and just walk. Well, I didn't have a dog at the time, but I used to walk around. We used to walk my cat Jack around for sure. But then the other picture down here obviously is weather related. For the audio listeners, you have a completely frozen hydrant. That's from Chicago, but it's labeled out of service, right? So hopefully at some point they went around, identified that it was an out of service hydrant, hopefully not an emergency situation, and they can document that. And then the top right picture, that is the engine tanker.
Thing's massive.
That's a beast.
Yes, so that's 2,500 gallons. So it's very much reflective of the community that you live and work in. But just understanding hey, you're definitely going to have you're going to have some time with that, but they're compensating for something, right? So they have this huge truck that carries 2,500 gallons of water. And, if you're using 1 3/4 lines or 2.5 or whatever, you have a significant pad of time. But they're probably, logic would dictate they have that truck because they're compensating for the fact that maybe their second due engine is 15 to 20 minutes away.
Right.
Do you think that truck goes out on medicals?
100%. Yeah. 100%.
God, can you imagine the amount of fuel to just move that thing?
Dude.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, right now, that's probably just the rear tires. Are those dualies in the back, too?
They must
I would
be.
imagine.
So you got what, 8 tires there at probably like $600 a pop.
Well,
He's probably got to replace those a couple times a year if chasing medicals around.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
The bottom is a picture of our friend. This was at the Brookline training. But it just kind of highlights that you need to be, it doesn't matter, like, if you're young. Like, to me, there's 3 things that I find, like, really important. This is that I read in a book that I've kind of adopted myself, that you need to be, like, a good firefighter. One is knowledge. Like, you need book knowledge. You need, like, class knowledge, right? But you also need experience. Like, you can have all the knowledge in the world, but until you experience something in real time, or experience, like, failure or success, right? You can't, like, really maximize the knowledge that you have until you can supplement that with also experience. And the last one's maturity, right? You have to have, like, the maturity to, like, kind of balance out that knowledge and experience. But the point being is, like, getting as many reps on the pump or, you know, whatever you guys utilize as possible. You don't have to be I'll probably have, like, a raging, like, mob outside my house tonight, but, like, you don't have to be, like, the most, like, senior guy to be a really, like, competent pump operator, right? You can supplement that by having a good amount of knowledge, taking the time to be motivated to get out there to learn your pump, so that when the experience presents itself, you have the knowledge to back it up, and then it all comes together.
Pump is one of those things that, like, you really can learn in theory, and it helps to cement it. You know, obviously, when you go do a job and you are the engineer that day, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to get water to any of the, you know what I mean? I only learned pump in theory. Well, okay, we got out and did practical evolutions, but it's
still,
like, you got to learn that in theory.
The practical evolutions on a pump are a lot closer to reality than the practical evolutions of venting a roof.
And I think that's kind of what I was getting
at. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Cool. So there's some cool pictures. So all the audio listeners, I'm sorry, I put a lot of pictures in here. But there's 3 hydrants here. One of them's a great hydrant surrounded by a chain link fence. One of them's frozen. One of them's a picture of my friend pumping, and
or half of your friend anyway.
3, I'd say that's 7/8.
Okay. Yeah, he's not a tall man, so
he's perfect the way he is.
He is. He's a good dude.
He's a good dude. All right. So I wanted to mix it up today. We do a lot of, like, scene size up. We do our shout outs, but I wanted to do a scenario based question. I figured we could answer this collectively because I figure between the 3 of us, we have maybe, like, 1/2 to 3/4 of a competent firefighter.
Nice.
But this is a cool scenario I got from fire engineering. So I'll read you guys the scenario, and then I'll describe the picture, and we can kind of unpack it together based on our operational realities. So your department responds to a call for a fire alarm in a 2-story garden-style apartment complex with the alarm sounding on one of the buildings in the rear. It is located approximately 2,000 feet from the entrance of the complex. The only source of water is a hydrant at the front entrance. Upon arrival to the rear of the building, you find heavy smoke and flames showing from the second-floor balcony with several exposures and an unknown occupancy. The building is not sprinklered and does not have a suppression system in place. Second due engine is 2 minutes away. As the first due driver engineer, what water supply tactics might you consider for the officer and firefighter as well as the supply for engine? So the picture, this actually doesn't go with it. So I got this scenario from an article from Fire Engineering, which I'll post a link to. It was a really good article. But I thought it was a cool scenario. I pinky promise or whatever. I bent pinkies. We'll talk about that another time. It's a medical deformity. Thanks a lot, guys. I didn't look at the recommendations. I thought we could just kind of dice it together. But the picture that's showing essentially depicts, a fire in an apartment complex with a long lay. So I thought it was a good depiction. So this could definitely happen, and this could definitely happen in Cambridge. I can think of a few places.
I don't know where we'd have a 2,000-foot lay.
Yeah,
that's a lot because now
that's more than we carry on a truck.
Now you're talking about this would be pre-planned big time, right?
Yeah,
you'd have to pre-plan it just because of that.
So it depends. So maybe not. Obviously, 2,000 feet is an exaggeration, but like some long lays into some apartment complexes that we might have, where there's limited resources available. But anyway, so my general thoughts. You're gonna have to 2,000 feet, depending on what you have. I mean, you're going to have to relay pump that.
Yeah.
100%. So I would probably, at the risk of sounding like a novice, right? I've never experienced this scenario in real life. Obviously, you'd have to lay it. First, do engine companies going to start facilitate the pathway, right? You're going to have to lay in. Second, like you said, incident pre-planning is probably going to have to be the midway guy, and get ready to relay pump that. And then your third dude is going to have to take the hydrant. That's like face value what I would probably think of doing. I mean, you guys can feel free to correct me. Internet, feel free to correct me.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think I agree with you for sure. As your first you're going to wrap the hydrant and lay your load out.
Yeah.
I mean, operational reality, maybe this department carries 2,000 feet.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, so I would say, like, obviously, if you carried that, I would wrap the hydrant and go. This type of fire is going to move really quick, so I think you're more advantageous to start putting water in the fire if you have that ability and let your second do establish a water supply. If in our operational reality where we carry, with the snakes about 1,000 feet per truck, I would lay in that first one, and then I would probably have this second pump leave a hydrant person, drive to the pump, and then back lay to the connection.
Yeah.
If we knew for sure they had enough line to
Yeah.
get back there, and I mean, as just like an option so that you then don't have to commit your third truck also to because that's then 2 trucks committed to.
Well, even like
pumps committed to water supply. You're going to need guys moving lines.
Yeah, it would be so we carry 950. Like
with snakes,
with snakes,
with
you carry
snakes
a little
we carry
bit more.
about a
but
little
even
over
like
1,000.
2, you're like cutting it close.
That's what I'm saying. So that's the
it's the tricky principle of it.
Yeah.
I would wonder if we would take any time to lay into this at all, like as far as wrapping the hydrant. I guess it wouldn't take that much time, especially if you're just going to dump your load. But
Nicholas.
man. But
Giggles.
I think I don't know if you're considering life safety, and I know it's a big building, but if you're considering life safety, I think we would be going to stabilize the event as much as we could first, get a line off, and then I don't know. I guess
It's a really tough scenario.
Yeah,
Like,
the way my brain worked, it was we're going straight in, and then I figure we could have.
Would you lay in with what you have, or would like?
I think it would be a smart thing to do, but then you have the problem with that is now we have a guy at the hydrant.
No, I mean like you could
just go and wrap it and jump back in.
Wrap it and jump back in.
Back
Yeah.
in, and you're just
All
at
right.
least laying the line.
Okay, so that changes my mind about things because I was thinking about going all the way in, trying to stabilize the incident best you can, get some water flowing, do whatever you have to do, and then letting the incoming engine companies take care of that because I feel like if they had to, they could just hook up to our line and then drive away with it and basically reverse lay.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I initially thought. So my guess is that if this was your operational reality, you're probably carrying at least close to
more.
enough hose to make this stretch, which changes everything about it. But like thinking about it, so I initially thought the same thing. Like garden style apartment, fire on the balcony. You want water on that quick, or it's going to be the whole apartment burning.
Right.
And so my initial thought was drive in and start fire attack with I'd probably like 2.5 hand line versus a deck gun just to conserve water, But then I thought if you do that and it is like a scenario like ours where we each carry 1,000 feet, well now you have to commit your next 2 pumps to water supply, which means you're not getting another crew for a line into the building or backup line till your 4th pump.
Well,
so that's why I would, if I didn't have enough, I would lay my load out.
I think that we would still have those guys because you're only going to make your connections. One guy's going to run the pump, and then the other guy's going to walk up with tools. I think, and it is a couple
It's true,
thousand
but
feet,
it's
but it's not that.
They're
going to be there, and I mean, what's a? I mean, that's like a little bit more than a quarter of a mile,
Yeah,
right? So
I mean,
you can walk that in probably
And all your gear, it's going to take you a couple minutes.
5
probably,
minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gonna get
It's a
up
very
there.
recent. The point being, like, honestly, like when I put this in, I wasn't even thinking about like it's difficult because like I'm almost trying to approach it like from this scenario. So you're assuming like you probably if you know like incident pre-planning, you're gonna know, and like you obviously like your operational reality is gonna reflect that. So hopefully you'd have more hose. This would be a very resource intensive incident.
Yeah,
It would
right.
probably be something that's pre-planned. It's identified during your fire prevention as, you know, a significant hazard.
Right.
But this is one of those things where, like, when you know, your water supply planning and coordination should begin well, you know, as soon as you get your dispatch of like that location, then you should be keying in like, hey, this is like, we have, you know, a vulnerable area, and then you can begin communicating with other incoming companies to plan before, instead of planning that on the fly.
I also think, and I know this photo isn't a part of the actual scenario that you stole from the internet, but in this photo, I see no entrances to this building other than windows. So you also have to think that if this was the building and you rolled up on this side of the building, this is where the fire was, and you had to get water on this quickly to prevent it from spreading, you also are going to have to commit another water supply and engine to the front to get into the actual fire building, because, you know, unless you go up and over those balconies and into the building.
Looks like there's some glass sliders, but that's still you're
are there? Yeah,
but still, you know, I mean, you're going
think about
through
the structure of a balcony versus you know, the house. So, you know, there's a lot of. I think that this is a. I think that, you know, all the ideas that we kind of just spit out are all possibilities, but pre-planning is the key to this one. Whatever if you had that scenario in your district, you'd have to have a pre-plan for it, and you'd have to know what everybody was doing.
Yeah, and you probably have to the apparatus that are prepared to respond to that type of event.
Right.
Yeah. So how much 4-inch do you guys carry?
1,000 feet.
1,000 feet.
Yeah.
Okay, so roughly the same.
Carry 950. Our first section is 50 feet, so we carry 950.
That's awesome.
And we have a few.
It helps, especially with those, like, you pull up in the hydrants, you know, 20 feet away.
Yeah.
And we have snakes as well.
We have snakes.
Yeah.
But, like, so we just actually did an evolution yesterday, because that we had our ladder tip malfunction, so the stow button put it back too far. Nobody caught it, and so when they extended it out and brought it back, it got caught on something and, like, ripped the tip off and messed up the whole thing. So we had to replace a bunch of stuff. And anyhow, so we just we put it back in service. It was still functional as a ladder for a while, but then we just put the whole thing back in service. So we did some evolutions and flowed water through and made sure, you know, the mechanic did the pressure testing and everything was fine, but we wanted to flow water through it because, you know, we don't fight fire with air. We fight fire with water. So
generally frowned upon.
You know, yeah, exactly. So,
you could try it.
But we just went through this yesterday, so the training captain purposely pulled the, you know, truck up directly across from the hydrant, like 10 feet. And so the shortest snake we have, I think, is like 25 feet or something or whatever, or 20 feet. I can't remember, whatever it is. So at any rate, you know, we hooked it all up and it did like a Z. And there was like 2 big pinches. And he's like, guys, think that's going to rob that of water? And we're like, maybe a little bit. They'll probably cut it down. He's like, by how much? I'm like, probably a lot. He's like, probably most of it.
Probably from time to time.
Yeah. But so we ended up disconnecting it and taking out another snake, running it under the truck, making a big loop, and then bringing it back around to the other intake. You know, so it's like it was like one of those things. You know, he was just making us think. That's all.
How many intakes do you have in your truck?
Well, we have the 2 4-inch, and then there's the 2.5-inch as well.
Where are they on your truck? Are they like side and rear?
No, both sides.
Oh,
and then some of our trucks have the front intake as well.
Okay. So
but
we have intakes on the rear. Most of our engines have intakes on the rear, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's an area you could run that 25 feet out behind the truck and into the rear.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Some have front, some have side. Like 3 and 6 have the side.
Yeah.
3 and 6 have the side
Black Max
because
side connection.
Yeah, because they have bumper turrets, and then
For a while on our old, all we had was a rear, and obviously that has pretty big implications for where you're coming in. I mean,
Sure.
it just makes it more difficult.
It technically had a side suction. It just didn't have a pressure relief system
the
on
adapter. Yeah. So
cool.
cool.
The adapter, yeah.
So you guys got to see us, you know, struggle through a scenario, which is fine, right? But that's reflective of the the firehouse table, right, where you talk through things, throw out some ideas, and see what sticks, and then hopefully get out and at least try it and pre-plan it. So
I would just drive through the buildings to shorten the way.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So that was cool. So I thought we would mix it up. So, which kind of wraps up. You know, we might do further segments on water supply. There's so like I said, there's almost an infinite amount of variables that ties into water supply. Everyone's approach is different. Every fire call is different, right? So like your approach for water supply on one fire is going to be completely different for an approach on, on another. So I mean, we could spend all day talking about water supply, but I at least wanted to highlight some of the larger principles and get the conversation going.
So send us in your thoughts.
Yeah,
Send us in your thoughts. Yeah.
If you have a scenario like that, 2,000 foot
Yeah.
lay into an apartment complex kind of thing, I'd be interested to hear if it is something that's pre-planned and your trucks are set up for, or if it's something you have to kind of piece together.
Yeah.
And then like I don't know, like now I'm
Tell us we're
thinking
idiots.
even, no, I mean you'd probably have to set up like the like a not like the water thief where you have like, you know what I mean, you have like like if you have one, I mean, but again, depends how much like volume you have. So
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
you can plan it all day and you got to
Yeah.
get
Right.
out there and do the reps.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I hope you guys found that enjoyable. But before we depart, we have the ever important question of the day:
Blue.
hydrants or trucks?
Yes.
Both. So I don't know if this will be, knowing Will, it'll be a controversial one.
It's not that I'm controversial all the time. We all agreed on pineapple on pizza.
Yeah.
I just am passionate.
Passionate.
That's a good way to put it.
Passionate.
A perfectly cooked burger.
Oh. Well, I know I disagree with Barry, so.
So I'll go first.
Yeah.
I've changed over time. I used to be like, I started like when I was younger as like a medium well guy, as a young kid. I was a young. We're talking like 12 years old,
That's
and I went to
disgusting.
medium. Now
Listen
I'm
to the
I'm
apology in his
staunchly medium rare.
Barry, I've ordered burgers with you several times and never, ever.
No, I'm talking like in the last like year or so. Like I went from medium to medium.
I'm talking
rare.
about like 2 weeks ago. We ate burgers at the pub.
Did
down
I
the
get
street.
medium?
Yeah.
Why do you have to bring that up on the podcast?
He was-
And I'm just telling
All right,
you
so
that.
very
telling
recently-
you I know that because every time I cringe a little bit.
Okay, so very recently, I had a burger that was medium rare, and it was pretty damn good. So I think I found the light, and I think I'm gonna stick with medium rare.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
I like that it's medium rare. Now, take it from there.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Ah, man. So medium rare. I don't really. I mean, I would eat hamburgers out of an act of desperation, due to the fact that I don't have cheese available. But I would have to go cheeseburger. Probably sharp cheddar. I like sharp cheddar. I like onions on it. Lettuce and tomato.
Raw or cooked?
Ideally caramelized.
Caramelized.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
ideally caramelized.
Mhm.
Avocado. I like avocado on my burgers. It's kind of like a nice like summer, like spring, fresh.
Yeah.
If I had like a chipotle aioli, something like that. I mean, now we're getting into the weeds.
This burger is just all over the
Yeah,
place. I gotta say.
burger
Yeah,
costs
you gotta
$500.
have.
Yeah.
You gotta have a theme,
Okay.
Barry.
It's gotta be
All
a
right.
theme.
So if this is my backyard and we're doing a another salty Jake's gathering,
Here we
so-
go again.
so I can surround myself with guys who actually are competent at firefighting. I would probably just make a bunch of burgers with sharp cheddar cheese. I'd have some like fresh onion, tomato, and then ketchup, I guess. So I don't like mayo. I don't like mustard.
Okay.
That's me.
Okay.
So
That's
toasted buns, top shelf toasted buns on the grill.
Okay.
That's where I'm at.
Will,
Will.
You want me to go next?
Yeah.
All right.
I can
Me-
take the mic if you still got time to think.
No, I don't need to think. I know my answer.
Yeah.
Number one, medium rare. So fun fact that this seems really loud. Growing up, there's no way my parents are watching this. My parents cooked, and they're great cooks, but my dad only knew one temperature of meat on the grill, and that was hockey puck.
Yeah.
And I went to a friend's house one day. I lived on an Air Force base. This family was from Texas. They served me a steak, and I was freaked out because it was bleeding on my plate because I'd never eaten that before. And I saw the light, and I'm about 11 years old, and never looked back. So I refuse to order any cut of beef that is more done than medium rare.
Mm.
Nothing more done than medium rare. You get into, it's a texture thing. It
Yeah,
doesn't,
yeah. Yeah.
Listen, this isn't me. This is the best chefs in the world.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
So, burgers, medium rare, seasonings, typical salt, pepper. I like putting ranch powder into the meat seasoning. It's pretty good. Or some people do like French onion soup, but that's like a whole different burger. Again, I like different stuff. So I like a burger with egg on it, or
That's a specialty
like a
burger.
barbecue bacon burger. But if you're asking me
Yeah.
my classic go-to burger, it's potato bun, potato roll, always.
Okay.
Meat to bun needs to be at least like a 2 to 1, or like a 2 to 1 meat.
In weight or in size.
Yes.
Yes.
Size like I hate. Listen, so brioche rolls are good, right? I hate people that
It's a lot
places that
of bread.
serve burgers on brioche roll, because even like an 8-ounce burger is like a roll this big with like a burger and then a roll this big. Like I'm out.
It's a lot of bread.
Meat to bread has to be right. Potato rolls generally hit that, and they're nice and soft. American cheese only. I like all varieties of cheese, but American cheese is for a burger. It's about the melt. All cheeses melt a little different. American cheese melts correctly for a burger, in my opinion. Fresh tomato, raw onion, dill pickle, and then I really only eat ketchup and mayonnaise together. I never really like ketchup or mayonnaise, but together the mayonnaise takes a little of the acidity out of the ketchup, and it's like a nice...
Isn't that called fancy sauce?
Yeah, something like that. So that's my...
Yeah.
If I'm making you a burger, like if I say, hey, you want to have burgers, that's the burger I'm making.
Yeah.
Interesting.
When my personal chef Ronald cooks me a burger, no, I won't get into that.
McDonald?
Yeah.
We call him Ron for sure.
Call him Ron.
We're boys.
Fellow ginger.
Yeah.
I used to have a fro too, but anyways. Medium rare. And very recently, I like everything on burgers, right? But very recently I got turned on to this burger called the breakfast burger. Now, I've had egg on burger before with other stuff like pulled pork. You know, that's the theme of that. But this particular burger, I don't remember what kind of bun it was on. Bun to meat ratio was, I think it was in check. But it was the burger with, it had the, what's the potato patty?
Like a hash brown?
Hash brown patty. Yeah. Hash brown patty. And then it was, I think it was lettuce, tomato, the egg, and then bacon jam.
Ooh.
Huh.
Dude, the bacon jam,
Is the jam?
lights out.
You know what? It's
Really?
again going to
Oh
sweet
my
with the
God,
salty,
dude.
right? Because they're making a
Yeah.
jam out of something that's like a salt
Oh,
pork
dude.
based thing. I can get behind
so
that.
Never had it.
Oh,
That's
it was
right.
so good. And then it came with a dill
Yeah.
pickle.
I just want to clarify. I said 2 to 1 on meat to bun, but it's like 2 to 1 for like the meat versus one side of the bun. So like if you were comparing them
So it's
together,
like equal.
both the bun and the meat would have to be about the same. Yeah.
Okay.
2 to 1 that'd be a lot of meat for bread. But anyway, I just wanted to go back
No.
and clarify my.
For our listeners, you don't have to try to comprehend what he just said. Don't
Yeah,
worry about
yeah.
it.
And
Less
last,
bread.
but certainly not least, Nicholas.
Okay, so I have clarifying questions as usual.
Okay.
Okay.
Right? It's never that simple.
Yeah.
Because I'll eat pretty much anything. Like if I go to like a fancy burger place, because they do exist,
Yeah.
right? Like I'll get the brioche with the
Chipotle aioli.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
aioli it
Yeah.
up. You know?
I'll aioli
I totally
it.
forgot about
like
guac.
that?
I totally forgot about guac on a burger.
Yeah, guac. I'll
Yeah.
guac it up.
Yeah.
You know, Olay.
Yeah.
Oh,
But here's my thing. If you're thinking of like like when I think of a burger, I think of like 4th of July. I'm like
Yeah.
so
Yes.
patriot me today.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
That's it.
You're in the
4th of
zone.
July.
Very happy, by the way.
I noticed.
Yeah, feeling great. So, this is gonna be the most controversial answer I've ever given on the show.
Oh no.
Hear me out.
It's medium or medium well. I can feel it.
So it's medium. Hold on.
And that's fine.
Hold on. This is like my go-to, like when I think of a burger. Okay, American cheese only. I want the bun that's like called a hamburger bun from like Market Basket in the set of like 16 that you get in the twirly thing, right?
Okay.
with the seeds on it, the sesame.
No,
seeds,
just
whatever
a
they are.
regular.
What
No,
kind of-
no seeds.
No seeds? Okay.
It's gotta be. This is so messed up. It's so funny, dude. This is so funny. Okay, it's gotta be like that bun with a burger that's like, you know, I agree with the 2 to 1. I think
Yeah.
for that size burger.
Yeah.
American cheese only.
Yep.
Lettuce, tomato, the ketchup, mustard, whatever they have. I like to put my own on. So
Yeah.
like I'm thinking like again 4th of July, you're out at a barbecue,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
put your own
You're in the
on, kinda
line.
deal.
You got the metal trays.
But it has to come in the tinfoil wrap like the dad who made 500 burgers ahead
Yeah.
of time.
Oh yeah. All right.
That you unwrap it,
Yeah.
pull the whole damn thing apart, put your own condiments
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
and then put that back
Where-
together.
I feel like I'm at the 4th of July right
can
now.
actually-
Right, you feel
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah.
Like
Painted
you're
the
there.
picture
You're there. I
perfectly.
just
I can
transported you
picture
mentally.
that bun in the foil, and when you unwrap the foil, a little bit of the bun sticks to the inside of the
Yeah,
foil.
or even better, right? It takes the imprint of the foil because you
Yeah.
know that those dads they'll like
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
That's just a traditional burger for me.
Damn it.
yeah. So
Well,
that's
Salty Jake burgers.
I
No,
answered the
just said
question.
yeah like 90 times.
Yeah.
I've been,
Now, if I was eating a steak, though, always
Yeah, yeah,
medium
yeah,
rare.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
crazy.
No,
I'm not,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
If I'm getting a steak, medium rare 100% of the time. Like I'm not crazy. But when I think of a burger, I want it like gingerly tossed to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? From a guy behind a flat iron grill who's been cooking since 4 a.m.
Right.
If you don't get yours quick, you're gonna miss the fireworks. Like that guy.
Right.
That's what I need.
Carol, tend the grill.
Exactly.
I answered the
Says
question the
kiss
same
cook
way.
on his apron,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes. I answered the question
Wearing
the
white
same
New
way I answered
Balances.
the.
Or not? Yeah.
and
The-
with shorts and
Yeah.
knee-high socks,
Jean shorts. Yes.
diabetic socks.
cut off from his jeans that he paid $20 for in 1972.
yes.
I answer the question the same way I answer the pizza question. I will eat a bunch of different types of pizza, but if you're asking me like my
What's your go-to?
go-to,
Yeah.
like if
What do you
I was
prefer?
like, oh, I want a burger, what I'm gonna be thinking is what I just said. Barry also likes a steak medium. I just want the world to know that
I always
How do you know that?
because I've cooked you steak in the firehouse and you never want the medium rare pieces.
I like
changed,
to cook it
man.
medium rare, or I like to order it medium rare, in hopes that it comes out that way. But so that if it does come out medium, I'm not
Yeah, you
completely
can live with it.
disappointed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't send food back.
I'm with you.
It's
I
just
have,
awkward. It's embarrassing.
And then people go, no, I'll take it off the bill. I'm like, no, you won't, because I'm gonna either eat it or I'm gonna take it home with me if you
Yeah.
get me something else. So put it on the bill. And most of the time they don't. And I don't like fight with them about it, but I'd like them to.
there's like I don't send. I could probably tell you once or twice my whole life, and it has to be like
Atrocious.
I've done it
atrocious.
one
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Like inedible food.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm the same way. It's not, listen, people get busy. Like, I'm not trying to ruin somebody's day. It's there to make money. You know what I mean? Like,
And then they're disgruntled at you probably and don't, you know.
do you ever work in the service industry?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did.
I've seen the movie Waiting though.
Let me tell you, I was the
goat! The goat! Oh, it was a dangerous time to be in the Army barracks when that movie came
Yeah,
out,
I
let me
bet it
tell you.
was.
There was a lot of ball sack flying
A lot of-
around.
I
lot
was
of
the
kicks.
food service expo at the 99 of Stoneham.
Wow.
Yeah, no big deal.
I recently was having my tires changed, and I walked across the street to a Chili's because it was like going to be an hour and a half, and their food runner was a robot.
Chili's?
Yeah, it was a
Who
little
actually,
robot.
like, who gets excited about, like, all right, gang, going to Chili's?
Nobody. The answer is
I
nobody.
used to love Chili's. I
They're
will
they're
say
very welcoming when you walk in.
I will say the one, like the last
Or Applebee's.
chain
No,
restaurant,
dude,
the
Who
99,
goes?
the 99 though.
No.
I love the
99.
99. I love
Hey,
the 99.
great meal, great deal.
One of the
You know?
first
Yeah.
one of the first places I ever ate at, like out up here, was in '99, and it's just
Was it in
it's
Stoneham?
Terrible.
Mostly just go there for beer.
The
Their smothered
they
tips?
won't. You know how I know they're
love
not
their
good.
smothered tips.
They will not cook you a medium rare steak or burger, or maybe not steak, but they will not cook you a medium rare burger.
When's the last time you went?
Not recently.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Make a believer out
Roadhouse,
of you
though?
yet. Oh, the Roadhouse?
Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Chili's is good for like a
Apps.
lunch beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, the long story short is they were putting food on a robot and it was like beep booping around and going to people's tables.
I'm sorry, it was.
Skynet's live.
Beep booping.
Beep.
It was beep booping.
As opposed to bebopping.
Yeah, it was literally like beep boop beep boop beep boop beep boop beep beep as it went by. It was,
Skynet
it was
is
wild.
live. All right. Well, my dog's looking at me funny. So, hi guys. She'll
All
make
right.
her debut eventually.
I suppose that's it for the show then.
That is it for the show, but it's not done until.
All right, guys.
The outro.
Thanks for coming along. JobTlks out.
Wait. Wait. He didn't
Wait.
finish the
I
sentence.
didn't have to do the
Until
outro.
Will do the outro. Will, do the outro.
Hey, Will. Do the outro.
Outro out. Thank you guys for joining in again, listening to us ramble off topic about the type of food we like to eat and robots in restaurants going beep boop. If you like that, come back for more. If you didn't like that, come back because maybe we won't talk about beep booping robots next time. It'll be better. Follow us, JobTlks, JobTlks on our socials. You're already on YouTube if you're watching this, so hit that subscribe button. Set your alerts. Subscribe to us on Google Podcasts or Spotify or wherever else we are. Help us get out there. We appreciate it.
Yep, like, comment, subscribe. And finally,
JobTlks out.
All right.
Nice.